The Edmonton Oilers have linked up with the Tampa Bay Lightning for a few trades in the past, but one stands out as particularly important in the franchise's history. On December 30th, 1997, the Oilers were in the midst of a 5-game losing streak and sat at 11-20-9 following a 3-1 loss to the Philadelphia Flyers. The previous spring, the Oilers had generated quite a bit of hype after they snapped a 4-year playoff drought and beat the heavily favored Dallas Stars in the first round. Missing out on the playoffs after that would have been a huge letdown. General manager Glen Sather went ahead and pulled the trigger on a huge deal to shake things up, sending young forwards Jason Bond Sr. and Steve Kelly, along with defenseman Brian Marchment, to the Lightning in exchange for Roman Hamrlik and Paul Comrie. Hamrlik had been Tampa's first ever draft choice, going number 1 overall at the 1992 NHL Draft. He stepped into the league immediately as an 18-year-old and was the player the Lightning were planning to build their franchise around. At the time of the trade, Hamrlik was in his 6th season in the league. He had put up some impressive scoring numbers, highlighted by a 65-point performance in 1995-96 that resulted in him finishing 7th in Norris Trophy voting, but he was widely regarded as a giveaway machine and a disaster defensively, as a career minus 124 rating with Tampa plagued his reputation. Going back the other way was a significant package of talent from Edmonton. Marchment was a rugged defensive defenseman who could eat minutes and throw bone-crushing hits, so his loss would be felt on the team's blue line. Bond Sr. and Kelly had been two of Edmonton's recent top draft picks at number 4 overall in 1994 and number 6 overall in 1995 respectively, but they were struggling to break into the NHL at the time. Hamrlik had a difficult time dealing with the pressure of being the key cog on a brand new team, so Sather's gamble was that he would thrive playing in a different environment with a better supporting cast. It was a risky bet as he was giving up a quality veteran defender and 2 young forwards with high draft pedigree. The bet paid off as Hamrlik quickly established himself as a top-pairing defender alongside Boris Mironov, giving the Oilers the puck-moving defenseman they badly needed on their blue line. Edmonton went on a 6-game winning streak in January of 1998 shortly after the trade and earned a playoff spot after a strong finish to the season. Just as they had done the previous year, the Oilers pulled off an upset over a heavily favored team in the playoffs, beating the Colorado Avalanche in 7 games. Hamrlik played 2 more seasons with the Oilers and the team made the playoffs in both of them but didn't get past the first round. He appeared in 196 games with the Oilers and scored 22 goals and 103 points and had a plus 13 rating, a significant improvement over his time with the Lightning. In June of 2000, Kevin Lowe was hired as the general manager after Glen Sather left to join the New York Rangers. His first major move as general manager was trading Hamrlik to the New York Islanders, as the defender had become too expensive for the cash-strapped Oilers to keep around. Coming back to Edmonton from New York in the Hamrlik trade was defenseman Eric Brewer, who the Islanders had selected with the number 5 overall pick in the 1997 NHL Draft and a second-round pick in that year's draft, which they wound up using on forward Brad Winchester. Brewer was a good defender for the Oilers for 3 seasons between 2000 and 2004, but the biggest role he played for the team was when he was the centerpiece of the deal that Edmonton sent to St. Louis in exchange for Chris Pronger. The Blues are one of the first teams ever to be in salary cap hell immediately following the 2004-5 NHL lockout, and they couldn't afford to keep Pronger around, so Lowe swooped in and capitalized. Ultimately, Sather taking a gamble on Hamrlik wound up being an incredibly important move in the history of the Oilers. They traded away a pair of forwards who wound up being busts in exchange for a very good offensive defenseman who made good on his potential in Edmonton. Hamrlik's value was felt long after he left the team, as the trade that sent him to the Islanders directly led to the Oilers acquiring Chris Pronger. It's interesting to look back at trades that happened in the past and try to imagine what they would look like in the present context. The 2022-23 Oilers are wildly different than the 1997-98 Oilers, as the current version of the team doesn't have to constantly play the same game of musical chairs that the previous version of the team had to play because of the budgetary constraints that came with being a small market NHL team in the late 90s. But there's certainly still a parallel here, as the Oilers are yet again looking for a solution on their blue line. Acquiring an impact defenseman of Hamrlik's caliber in the middle of a season would require a gutsy trade in which important players would be going back the other way. Is Ken Holland willing to do the same thing this year?